Okay, good morning, everybody. We're going to be starting out today, and really, I'm excited to get here and get things going. This is one of my favorite subjects is about how to manage leads on a website, and basically how to convert leads and convert them from just somebody who's out browsing to somebody who's a client, and eventually, obviously, the idea is to make them a client for life. I'm going to talk a little bit about the basics today. We'll get a little farther and a little more in depth as we go along with the next webinar. But hopefully there'll be some really good stuff here for you. Um, Before we get started, I do want to talk to you a little bit about SEALKids.com, and it's an honor for me to be a part of that. I know you've recently lost members of the SEAL team that are there in your community, and Gary contacted me, and it was an honor for me to be part of that, to be able to help do some of the SEALKids.com site and to be able to help with that. And I wanted to let you know that a couple of the people that you have in the office have really chipped in and helped out, not just financially, but by sending it out to some of their friends. And Joe Cross, I know you're here online, Joe, and you did a great job of sending that out to somebody who then forwarded it on to a bunch of people. And doing good in the community is always a great way to help, but especially at a time like this where so many who have given so much for our country have lost their lives, that it's a time for us to remember them and to give back. And I appreciate you guys allowing me to be part of that, and that's a great thing. Okay, want to talk a little bit about where we want to start is what's a lead, and I know you're probably thinking, Eric, why did you start with that? Well, because it's important. We need to kind of find out what constitutes a lead. Are they really somebody who's fired up to go get something right now? My friend Keith Nutter, who I worked with, and I've made mention of him in the past, one of the things that Keith refers to leads as is just somebody who wants something. And he also calls them people who want the opportunity to waste a bunch of your life. He has a lot of different names for leads. And you would think from him saying that he's being really negative about it. And he's not. What he's trying to, his point that he's trying to make is, you don't know what they want yet. It's early on. You don't even really have a relationship. So don't invest your heart and soul and think that every last one of these is going to, every last lead that comes on the site is going to turn into a client for life. Because if you do, you're going to have your heart broken 98% of the time, and you'll end up at Our Lady of Peace or something. You know, you'll be really having a tough time. And his point is that you invest in the relationship just a little bit, and then see when they're ready to invest more, then you reciprocate, and then you actually have a relationship to where they're actually a lead. He also likes to say they're not a lead. But we don't know when they first go on the website. You know, in comparison with what we knew before, think about what happened 10 years ago. How did you approach it? What was a lead 10 years ago? A lead 10 years ago may have been that you put an ad in the Sunday paper and they showed up at an open house, or they called into the office, right? And whoever, if you had floor time or floor duty or whatever you want to call it these days, or if you were there and somebody handed you this quote lead, what you were going, okay, well, now I got something I can deal with. And you called them because they wanted somebody to call them back right away. That was the huge thing. Call them back right away. And boy, you know, then what your job was to screen them to see if they were really ready to buy a house or whether they were just window shopping. And if they were just window shopping, it was probably a good idea not to waste your time with them, right? Well, how that's all changed over the course of 10 years. You know, now the window shopping they do is all online. They get most all of their information online. And so when we get them, when they just register on a website, here's what we don't know about them. We don't know what they want. We do know a little bit about what they're looking at. We don't know who else they've talked to. We don't know who else they might be working with. We don't know where they are to to a degree. And we'll talk about some of that. But what we don't know about them is a lot more than what we do. And one of the great things about the TREG websites that are up there now is they kind of equalize that playing field just a little bit. They allow you to get in the back end and actually see what your customer is doing online. And that's a huge benefit, because when you can see in near real time what this specific person is doing, you can do a lot more in terms of personalizing how you contact them and how you deal with them, and in managing which ones you deal with and prioritizing how you do things. So what is a lead? That sounds like it's an unimportant question, but it really is kind of important. What we don't know is more than what we do, and there's a lot of good reasons to get to know more about people. The two obstacles, and I always put this slide in when I talk about leads because I think it's important. There are two main obstacles for an internet buyer to use you as their realtor. They don't know you and they don't trust you yet, which is one obstacle, and they're just getting started. They're not ready yet. In most cases these days, somebody that goes out online and signs a registration form on a computer is not somebody who's ready to buy yet. Now that may be it's a little less so in your area, and I want to compare and contrast a little bit because of what you guys have going on. You have an interesting area in that you've got a lot of military, and when they get their orders to come to Hampton Roads, they are, let's say they're based in Norfolk or whatever, they know the date certain that they're coming by. They know how long they can wait. Now they know what their expectations are. They know what they want. What they don't know is where to find what they want inside of your area. So, but they at least have a date certain. A lot of the other buyers out there, let's say it's a vacation home, right, in Virginia Beach. Do they really know what they want? Maybe, maybe not. How motivated a buyer are they? Well, for the military, they may be motivated to buy or not buy, but motivation as to whether they're coming here and when they're coming here is not the issue. So there's a difference there. But in general, they're just getting started. They're not ready for you yet to come on too strong. And one of the biggest obstacles that people make is early on in their relationship is coming on too strong. And I think that's one of the things that if you compare building a relationship with an internet lead to dating, it's probably pretty appropriate. I don't know. I've been married 23 years, but it's probably pretty appropriate. On the first date, if you want to progress things too fast, chances are the other person may put the brakes on right away on you. And this is the same thing, and there's different rules that apply to it. Okay, I want to start with why speed works with leads, and this is important. The evolution of how an internet lead started up, and how we started tracking them. The only organization that really did a thorough study of, quote, internet buyers was the California Association of Realtors, or affectionately, as I've known, put it up on here, CAR. And what they did was they actually went out and said, well, what's different about these internet buyers versus regular buyers? And I found that kind of funny because nowadays, if you look at it, there's really no difference. They're all internet buyers, and we'll get into that in a minute. But they're more receptive to what you have to say right when they're on the site, because they're in that mode. They're looking at houses right then. And somebody asked about, well, will they, if as you give them information that you see, because on the site you can see a lot of information about each agent, or about each buyer, right? You can see what kinds of houses they're looking at. You can track that, which is great. By name you can see what they're looking at. So what happens when you call them up and you say, I see you're looking at houses that are 275 to 325 in such and such an area in this subdivision. What can I help you with? That comes across as a little creepy sometimes. But one of the things, one of the ways to lessen the creep factor and the freak factor is to basically give them one nugget to let them know that you know what they're searching for, but don't give them a whole litany of things. Let me give you an example. When you send them an email, just say, I noticed you were looking in Chesapeake. Is there something I can find you? Not, I noticed you were looking at 3rd Street in Chesapeake at this $275,000 house. Can I show you that? The difference, one is a lot creepier than the other. If you just give them one detail, first of all, it lets them know that it's not a canned thing, and it knows that it's very quick. Speed works, but speed plus knowing too much equals stalking. And again, we're going back to the dating thing. Good grief. But it's a valid point, right? You'd rather be fast and can I help you? And if you know what they're searching for, which we do, great. But you don't necessarily need to divulge everything that you know about them and say, wow, isn't this cool? I know this much about you. If they perceive you're just there to help them, they're not going to be threatened. The other point I would make on that is speed. The reason why speed works with the car study was that agents were perceived as being responsive when they responded to that first lead quickly. By simply just getting online and going, hey, I'll take care of you. How can I help you? And then just sitting back, in the buyer's mind, what they were sitting there, they were seeing an agent who was hovered right over their computer, and as soon as somebody popped up, they were jumping right on it. They don't realize that you could respond there from any number of places. You could be at the ball game and have just stepped out for a second with your cell phone and responded to their lead. You could have just tried to call them. You can enjoy your lifestyle from wherever you are. But the goal is to get back in touch with them, and that's what they need. So the California Association of Realtors, their study, and I think they've stopped doing it now because they did it for a number of years. It started in 2004, I think, or 2003, where they were saying, look, we really got to examine what this internet buyer thing is. And, the funny part is that everybody's an internet buyer now, which takes me to another point. In these websites, you want to put all of your leads into your website. Why? Well, the first reason is when and you want to tell them all about your website because there are different types of leads. If you get I guarantee you that all of your clients are searching online for houses. If they're looking in the market to buy a house or to sell a house, they are looking online. If they are looking at somebody else's website, there's a chance that they're going to end up being somebody else's client. So there's no good reason not to have them on your website, which is why the real estate group's done such a great job of trying to provide you this kind of stuff and the training to use it so that you can keep people inside of if they're in your sphere, they need to be in your site, and they need to be keeping their hands where you can see them as they learn to go do this. Okay. One of the things about the two obstacles we just talked about, right? They don't know you and they don't trust you yet, and they're just getting started, right? It's always easier to overcome only one of those obstacles rather than two. Okay? And you can pick your order of which one you want. If they don't know you and trust you yet, you need the key to overcoming either of those obstacles is you need to get a conversation started with them. Conversations where they can tell that you're just relaxed and you're here to help them. Hi, how you doing? How can I help? Okay? Hi, how you doing? How can I help? That sort of thing is really what it's all about. It's not pushy. They can sense pushy. In fact, they probably have their pushy-ometer out there waiting for you. They want to know how, and they're concerned about that. But they need to know you care. And if you say, listen, just cruise around on my site, do what you need to do, but if you need something, please get in touch with me. You know, you may be thinking inside, I know you're going to buy a house. You might as well buy it from me, and you want to close the deal and get to the point. With internet buyers in general and with people online that you meet over the web, it's good etiquette just to kind of let it come to you, and it will. I promise you it will, in a higher percentage than if you try and be too pushy about it. Okay. You remember when you were all taught, and we were all taught, right, that, you know, if I come up to meet you and we sit there and we shake hands and we talk for a second, that if I really want to get information out of you, and I use this with my teenagers all the time, right? I ask them open-ended questions that you can't say yes or no to, right? Instead of saying, do you got any homework? With the answer, which is always no. You know, you ask an open-ended question. You ask, what are you up to today? And then, of course, they say nothing, and so you don't get an answer anyway. But you get the idea. There's a lot of things that you can do and use an open-ended question that doesn't end with a yes or no, and just leave it there. If you do that, you really can elicit a conversation. And everybody knows to do that in conversation, but how many of you do it in emails? How many of you do it? I mean, let's go back to a couple of webinars ago. We talked about how to do that in blogging. Why not end every single blog post with a question? You know, wouldn't that elicit some people to get in a conversation with you? Because markets are conversations, and that's what we're trying to get to. So let's talk about doing it with emails. So let's say that you give somebody a call and they're not there, so you send them an email to follow up with a lead. And all you do is give them a one-liner question, and then you just, you know, sign off, and that's that. What it does, it's like a pregnant pause, except the pause never ends. And so it pushes them. It gives them a reason to respond with an answer. It entices them to reply to your email, which is what you want, because once you get a conversation started, you know, then it's on, right? Then you can help them. Then you can engage with them and get things going. The other thing that I was going that is hugely important is that you need to be brief. I can't overemphasize this enough. One of the things that happens in working with people is over the years we've gotten a shorter and shorter and shorter attention span. You ever notice that? It happens a lot. All right. We used to have a lot longer attention span as human beings than we do now. Now, you know, we used to be able to focus on problems and work our way through the solutions, and now it's more like, I want instant gratification. So instead of waiting for a solution to a problem, I'm just going to Google it, find what I want, and move on to the next thing. Everybody has short attention spans. And they can only focus directly on one thing. And if you think about it, you can get people to take action with a really brief thing a lot easier than you can with a big complex thing. And how many of you, be honest, when somebody sends you an email that's like a big long missive, like a big novel, how many of you read past the first paragraph? Be honest. It's important that you do, but you probably don't. Okay? So when you're talking to somebody, there's power in asking questions and there's power in being brief. We're going to combine those two. There's a lady, it's a friend of mine, her name is Lisa Udy, and Lisa, it was an idea that was originally done by another friend of mine, Eric Bramlett, who passed it on to her, and now she's used it. She's taken it a little more to a level more like a science. But what we're talking about, oh, by the way, you want me to prove that this works? If you take a look at this email message, right? One of the great things about this, really quick messages are right there. They don't have to double click and open up the email. The chances are people don't open up their email these days. This is Outlook, right? And what they do is they just go down here, bing, 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 and what happens over here? They simply go out and grab it. They see what somebody wants. So rather than double-clicking it here, pulling it up, closing it out, they just noodle their way down here, and they kind of look in this screen to see what people want. That's how they get through, 157 emails a day, and without wasting time. And so that's how you do it. If you want to make an impact on somebody, be brief and to the point, and ask what you want. Now, this happens to be a client of mine who says, what do you think about pop-up chat software? Which is great. I mean, totally cool. Just really quick, I can answer him, and on we go. But brief and to the point. So let's talk about some examples of Lisa Udy's presentations. See any homes you want more information on? Let me know, Lisa. That's kind of a matter of fact, but it's great. I want to share with you a little bit of the psychology here behind some of this. And then we'll talk a little bit about how to use it more specifically in the next webinar. But notice that, number one, very brief and to the point. Let me know, the three-word command, right? We all have learned that the three-word imperative is something that we really want to do. Let me know. 2 words. Click here. Sign up here. All those different three-word little blurbs that work. Let me know, Lisa. Okay, it's really brief. It's to the point. It asks a question, so that question mark is sitting right here in the middle of the page, and it's just sitting there taking up space, asking for a response. The other piece of psychology, this is the first name. That's really important. People assume that when they get a first name that it makes them familiar. Okay? First names mean I'm friendly. If you put in here, Lisa Udy, CRS, GRI, ABC 1, 2, 3, and all that, and I have nothing against, I love certifications, believe me. It's a sign that you've done good in the industry. But if you lead off with that, sometimes people don't, because the general public really doesn't know what it is until you educate them about why CRS means something, right? Or why GRI means something. That's something you have to educate them on, and after you have a relationship, they'll look at that like a doctor or something like that. It'll give you some credibility. But until you educate them, they just want to know you're a good person. So putting it in with a first name only, and then what you do down below is you can put your contact information. You can put Lisa Udy, the real estate group, Virginia Beach, Virginia, blah, 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 all that stuff down below it. But make sure that it's first name basis. There's something really comforting to people about a first name. And when you call somebody by name, that comforts you. So that gives you a little bit of the psychology behind some of this. Okay, here's another one. Hi, Joe. Are you still interested in Chesapeake? I would love to hear from you. Now, this incorporates what I was talking about before, where what you're doing is you're taking one little nugget of information, right? And that's they're looking in Chesapeake. So what is it doing? It's saying, I know where you're looking, but you're not getting the creep factor of going, notice you were looking at Main Street in Chesapeake for that really nice house that just came on the market, and that's got it is a really cool name. You know what I'm saying? It's just not that specific, but it lets them know that it's not a canned response. One of the things that people want is they want personal attention. They realize that the one thing that you have to offer them is your time. And if they get the sense that it is not a canned response, they will respond more often. Again, you're going to up your batting average. So I thought this was a great way to approach it. Are you still interested in Chesapeake? Would love to hear from you. Okay. Are you enjoying our website? Need help with anything? Have a great day. Okay. All good. Here's another one that's interesting. Are you interested in talking to a lender for pre-approval? I have some great contacts. Now that presupposes a couple of things. Number one, that they're a buyer. And you say, well, gosh, how can I assume that they're a buyer? Well, I will tell you. Sorry about yawning. The reason why you know they're a buyer is most of the time, and I mean like 85 to 90% of the time, somebody that's out there on your website is going to be a buyer. They just are. They're coming out, they're looking to search the MLS. That's what they're looking for. We've statistically proven that when somebody comes to visit a site, 85% of the traffic is going towards searching for a home. That's what they want to see, is they want to go window shopping, right? All the other pages in a site are like little, check this out, sale sign, little things to try and distract them along the way to get them to declare what they want. But the reality is, most of the time, they are looking for houses. They're looking for homes. So, but this asks them, are you looking for a pre-approval? Have some great contacts. In other words, it suggests to them that maybe they should get a pre-approval, but it doesn't do it like, hey, you need to be pre-approved before you go out and look for a house. It just says, if you're looking for it, I've got some good contacts. I really like that. It's kind of subtle. Okay, here's a more direct one. Would you like to get some lunch or coffee sometime? I'd love to meet you. Have a great evening. That's a little more direct, but I think it's a great approach. And people that are slightly intrigued, that will help them get over the hurdle and get to doing what they need to do. So that's a good one. And again, one line, something that you can see right in Outlook without having to open up the browser, open up the email separately. Really simple. So I had a friend, and I talked to him yesterday, and this was an email that he sent me. I blew it up a little bit so you could see it. And Cal, gosh, how do I explain Cal? Cal is a broker who's got 8 agents in his office, just a really nice guy who is in Gulf Shores, Alabama. It's kind of a vacation area and a lot of second homes. Not really all that dissimilar to Virginia Beach in a lot of ways. It says, I just chatted with one of my agents. Lisa Udy's messages have brought him 27 warm responses in the last 3 days. That's how good they work. I would guess the other 7 agents are having similar results. And the point is that they work. Using those little short messages as opposed to the long form email response will probably double the number of responses you get. And what you're not looking to establish a lifelong relationship with every last one of the people that comes on your website. What you're looking to do is to up your batting average a little bit. The best people out there convert at about 2 to 2.5%. And I know that's discouraging, and I don't mean to say that to discourage you. But I'm talking about from the time they register and they don't know you from Adam to the time that you sit at the closing table with them, 2 to 2.5%. The good news is that you can up that. You can improve that. And by doing some simple things, you can really do it. All right? I get a question a lot of times, and I wanted to kind of go there because I wanted to make sure that it gets answered. It's important. And that is that sometimes people say, well, gosh, how long should I keep a lead before I delete it? And so I want to share with you some facts. Our record, the one of any site that I've been involved in, was a lead came in, and 36 months later, they decided to buy a house. And I'll tell you a little bit about the story. They were from Ohio, and they decided to come into town. There's actually 2 people that are really close. One came from Ohio and was going to move into town, and then decided not to. And then they were going to move into town again, and they, because one of the spouses' jobs was moving into town, and then they got transferred. The company changed plans, and they went elsewhere. And but then what happened? Well, they they kept in touch with the people here in town because they wanted to move to Louisville. And a total of 36 months later, the agent gets an email and says, "Thanks for keeping in touch with me for all these months. I'm ready to buy a house now. My company's transferring me. Can you help me find an executive level home here in town?" And of course, the agent was thrilled and came running down the hallway to me. I was like, "Can you believe this? Here we go. It's been almost 3 years." Another one that we had that was like that was somebody who was serving in Iraq, and they had come back. He had come back from one deployment and was looking, and then ended up working, in a different capacity with the military and going back to Iraq again. And it was kind of funny because we were sitting there and we get this phone call at the brokerage, and he's like, "Well, yeah, I'm calling from Baghdad," and we thought he meant Baghdad, Kentucky, because there is a Baghdad, Kentucky. And he was calling from Baghdad, Iraq, on one of those Iridium satellite cell phones, and really clear sounding cell phone too. It was amazing. But the point is, people say, "Well, gosh, when can I delete the leads? When are they no good anymore?" They're no good when they opt out. That's my general philosophy. I wouldn't opt out. I wouldn't waste them. You never know when they're going to come back in, and you never know when you send out a mass email to people when it might help. Follow-up doesn't take much. I put follow-up as minimal here. It really doesn't take a whole lot, right? It's not like you have to invest your life savings and risk your kids to keep up with them. So you just kind of bet on the come and let them float around. We talked about conversion rates. The best of the conversion rates are around 2 to 2.5%. A lot of brokerages are a lot less than that. If you think about it, it's kind of like, remember when you do mailings like postcards out to people? That's something that people do. You send out a postcard, and you may send out 300 postcards, and if you get 1 or 2 back, or 3, or if you get 3 back, you're like, "Hey, this is wildly successful." This is kind of the same way, except you're investing a little bit of time rather than a lot more money. And obviously, you have money tied up in the sites, but in terms of keeping up with these folks, email nowadays has lowered the cost of us having to do it. Now, some people ask, "Well, gosh, wouldn't we be better off combining things?" And there are times to combine email and regular marketing. But here we're talking about website buyers leads. They really would rather be talked to in a different way. They'd rather be talked to how they would like to. Now, once you get a conversation started with them, here's a couple things that you need to keep in mind that'll help you help them. When somebody gets in touch with you from a website, if they start a conversation, find out how they'd like to be communicated with. Are they a big Facebook person? Are they a big email person? Are they a big text person? Are they, how do they want to be communicated with? And then communicate with them that way, and they will become a client. It'll really help things. Don't give up on them just because it takes them a while to get here, because you will never know how many, just by hanging in there, how much good you can get done. Okay, I want to talk about a couple other pieces of dealing with leads and how to manage leads. You have a couple of tools on your site that are really good. Number one, when you go in and I'm gonna go up to the site now and see if I can. Let me see if I've got it up here. And let's go to. Oops, that's not it. Where is it? Let's go here. Okay, let's just go into. Let's go to Nathan's website. Okay. All right. One of the great things about your website is you can control, and somebody asked this question, I thought it was a great question. They asked, what at what point when you go do a search, so for example, if you do a search for Norfolk, okay, and I'm just going to search listings, at what point do you start to ask for them to register? Well, they can register by going right here, or they can register, if you hit, let's say that you're a property like this, right? Now, you can actually go in and take a look, and you can go in and see the property. Now, Nathan may have these turned off, and you can change the settings. So sometimes you can change the settings so that they never have to register, or you can change it so they can register after 3 or 4 visits, or 5 or 6, or however many you want, to the details page. So here you are in the details page, and it hasn't asked me to register yet. So I'm going to go back to the results, and I'm going to grab a different one, right? And when I go down here, I'm going to grab another one. I'm going to look at this one, and I'm going to hit view. Okay, and you notice now is when it says sign up now for free. Boom, it puts the pop-up up there. So what Nathan's doing is he's letting them have a little taste of it so they can see what kind of information is offered on the website. And then once they've got that, then he says, okay, now it's time to register. And the reason why you do that is because that gives them a taste. It makes it less offensive to them to have to register. They're going, okay, I see. You've given me a lot of information. I'm okay with signing up. That's the important part. So somebody asked, well, which is the best way to do it? And boy, I really want to avoid saying this is better than that. But I will tell you, in practice, in terms of what will get the most buyer leads closed, what we found is having them register after 2 or 3, looking at 2 or 3 different homes in detail on the details page. That's a good mix. If you force registration up front, you're going to tick off more people because they're like, what do you mean? You're just demanding that I give you my stuff? And if you don't ever ask for any information, you won't get very many leads. And the point of having a website and really doing it is to get leads and is to connect with these people and is to start a conversation with them. And so that's a great question. Somebody else is asking about how to respond with, how to set up an automated response. And if you go look on Treg Training, you'll see that I've done that with the videos, and you can see that I've done videos on how to do each one of those things, and how to do an automated response is one of them. I'm not a big fan of doing automated responses. I really like responding quick and personally, and we'll get into it more in a couple of weeks, but I also like the idea, we all have cell phones, and a lot of us have smartphones where we're sending emails out and things like that. I really love the idea of just sending somebody a really quick, a really nice quick note on the phone, because they can see that it says underneath it, sent via Droid or sent via iPhone, and they at that point do not know. I mean, they know that you are that you're really it's not a canned response. It's something that you're typing. They also know that you're away from the office right then, but you're more than happy to respond to them. You'd be amazed at how many people will actually start communicating with you pretty easily and pretty readily that way. And so I think one of the things about having a smartphone and doing some of these things is really to provide convenience for you in following up with people. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. I think just kind of naturally throughout your day communicating with people. Now, granted, you have to be efficient with your time, how you're doing it, but you can respond to a lead from being on the road. You can respond to a lead when you're at home. Somebody else asked a great question, and I really like it. They said, "What's the best time of day to respond?" And I like that. Great question. It's not there. There is no right time. I think the first right time is as soon as you get an inquiry. But realize I think there are times where it's crucial that you respond quickly, and one of them is over the weekend. Think about it for a sec. If somebody's there on Sunday morning and they have a question, if you don't give them the answer, they're going to go out and they're going to be shopping around at an open house, and they're going to get the answer, right? And they'll just conveniently ask somebody because they won't be able to hold back. And then you're going to get one of those nice little phone calls that says, "Well, I didn't want to trouble you, so when I was out on Sunday, I went ahead and wrote up a contract with Joe Jones." And you hate that. You're like, "Oh man, I can't believe that happened." But the truth of it is, if they're on the website and they're inquiring and about something, or even if they're not, even if they're just registering, the time to get in touch with them on the weekend is immediate. Okay, that's a great time to do it. The other thing to think about in terms of timing during the day is what they're up to. If they're at work and they take the time to respond, if you respond with a phone call, if they can take it, they will. If they can't, they won't. You know, if they're busy in a meeting or whatever, and they were just goofing off on the internet and looking at houses instead of worrying about the training meeting that they were in, that's okay. You know, if you call them, they'll either pick it up or they won't. I think the most effective time for decisions to be made is usually in the evening. And people say, "Well, gosh, why is that?" Well, by that point in the evening, most people are with their significant other, and they're sitting down and looking at stuff together, and so they tend to make more decisions in the evening, and I think that's an important part of this. But the time to respond really is now, and whether it's via email, whether it's via phone, whatever, what have you, the time to respond is now. Okay, so do we have any other questions? If we don't, I'm going to wrap things up. Next week, we're going to be going in depth into this, and we're going to actually go through on the website how to do some of this stuff. And we're going to go through a few more things that hopefully help you up your batting average when it comes to doing the working with leads and managing leads. Remember that you want to manage them efficiently as you can, but there's something to be said for being effective about it too, and it's a really balancing act. I appreciate it. Have a great week, and again, please get out there and tell people about SEALkids.com. I really appreciate all you guys have done for that, and have a great couple of weeks till I see you again. Thanks.